Welcome in. Happy Thursday afternoon, everybody. I'm your host, Bobby Goodsby. Tonight, chat, we are going to be talking about villains, the chaos agents, the confession cam assassins, the ones you boo but secretly miss when they're gone. Welcome in. If this is your guys' first time here, we are at After Show on YouTube. You can find me on twitch.tv/Bobby Goodsby. You can also find me on my social media handles on X/Twitter at GoodsbyBobby or Instagram at GoodsbyBobby as well. Drop your favorite villain in chat right now. Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race, Housewives, Drag Race, Vanderpump Rules, whatever it may be. Let's talk about your favorite villains. And I want to really get into what makes a villain, and do we actually see them as villains in real life that we love to hate, or just good game players that were villainous? There's a lot to unpack there. We're going to get to the difference between a great TV villain and someone just straight up awful. There's a fine line, right? There's a fine line between gameplay and cruelty. And that's what I want to dissect tonight. I want to talk about what is the difference between someone who is just an evil, bad person that no matter what they do, it's unredeemable, or are they just a good reality TV villain that you love to hate but want to see on your screen over and over? Because I do feel like there's a real difference there. If you guys are new here, get your comments read live here on stream. I read everyone's comments live. So let me know what you think is the difference between a true reality TV villain and just a straight up awful human being when it comes to what they do on reality TV. Because there is a big difference. There's a massive difference. Let's be real. Like, Survivor invented the TV villain. Richard Hatch walked so Russell Hantz could sprint. Let's be real. Like, that really did happen. Like, if we didn't have Richard Hatch in season 1 of Survivor, we probably don't have Russell Hantz all these years later as one of the biggest reality TV villains. Hell, we might not even have Johnny Fairplay if there's no Richard Hatch. So yeah, I want to get into your guys' comments. Let me know what you think about reality TV villains. Juan, welcome in. Happy Thursday, Bob. My favorite villain, Big Brother, Evil Dick, and Survivor, Chaos Cass. Absolutely. Like, Evil Dick was one of the original villains for Big Brother. And I know he was on Big Brother 8, and there's other villains. You could put Dr. Will in the villain category. There's quite a few people you can put in the villain category. However, Evil Dick was like one of the first ones who like really leaned into it, right? Like, he really leaned into that character trip because I think that was just his personality, all the tattoos. He went by Evil Dick. Like, what more can you ask for a production angle if you're trying to cast a villain? And then you also got like the sweet side of him where he's trying to reconnect with his daughter Danielle and get that relationship to back on track to where it wanted to be. And for a minute, that definitely seemed like it was happening. We all know how it all ended, but that is like the perfect example of a reality TV star villain that you love to hate, or sometimes you root against, or maybe you just like him because he is chaotic. Like, he's the type of villain where you realize he was causing chaos, and he, with the pots and pans and everything he did to Jen, which not all of it was necessarily kosher, but then you saw the sweet side of him too, right? So, and he ended up winning. He ended up convincing these people that even through all those antics, he deserved to win the game. So I do think there's a difference between that and then just an evil person. Now, you might disagree with him outside the house. You might disagree with him when he was inside the house. But to me, he was a character that I liked on my television screen. When it comes to Chaos Cass was just, her name says it all, chaos, right? Like, she is a villain that I feel like was just unintentionally herself, or maybe intentionally, who knows? And with Chaos Cass, it was very much so like, I'm going to cause as much chaos because I'm on the outs anyways, so I might as well go completely all in and lean into that. So much so that it clearly tanked her game. She was going to be a final 2 GOAT no matter what, whoever she sat next to, if she got there. The fact that she didn't get there is wild to me. It's almost like the perfect strategy if you want to guarantee yourself $100,000, and she still wasn't able to do that. But I think when we saw Chaos Cast 2.0, it wasn't really the same Chaos Cast. Like this time she was playing to actually play, and it wasn't as entertaining because it wasn't as chaotic as the first time she played. But like, imagine Kagayan without Chaos Cast. Without Chaos Cast, I don't think that show is even nearly what it is. I mean, yes, there was still great gameplay, but like Chaos Cast made a lot of the chaos happen. Like imagine all the drama with Spencer. Like we wouldn't have had that if Chaos Cast wasn't there. You know, Spencer, who now goes by Ryman, right? If we didn't have him there, or have Chaos Cast there to be the antagonist to the Spencer character, we wouldn't have great moments like Cass never gonna win. You know, like like it's stuff like that that makes the show, it makes the drama, it makes good TV, and we need that on our television screen. Randy, what's up, Fresh Show? How you doing? Randy Bailey is evil and bad. He has a crummy personality and always scheming. Here's the thing, though, with Randy Bailey. Like, clearly a lot of it, like what we see on Rob Has a Podcast when he goes on there for interviews and stuff, it's clearly satire, right? Like, yes, I'm sure that that's an aspect of his personality. But every time, like, he hangs up on the phone with Rob or gets into it about stupid things that clearly shouldn't be so edgy, it's clearly a character he's portraying. It's clearly satire. So I wonder what ounce of that is actually like the true Randy Bailey, which I understand, like on our television screens, there is an aspect of that. And it's definitely like he's leaning into that character. But I don't think Randy is as evil or as bad as what he portrays when he does these interviews, when he talks about, or excuse me, when he talks on a podcast with Rob. I definitely think that's more of a character trope that he's trying to pronounce. Guys, if you guys are just joining, get your comments in here. We're going over who are the real reality TV villains, and are they good TV reality villains, or are they just bad people? I do think that there are a few people I will get into later that I have in my notes that are just probably not good people, right? And I usually don't like to say that loosely. Like, I don't like to say, oh, this television character, because they are real people in the outside world, that they're bad people in real life. But there are a couple instances where it's just like, no, you're kind of just a shit person, right? Like, if you really want to get into like the bad people, you could get into like the scooping of it all, right? Like, those are just shit people. He wasn't even necessarily a TV villain, but he's become a villain outside of reality TV. There's people like Jax Taylor from Vanderpump Rules, who kind of just seems like not such a great guy, right? And like just has a lot of problems on the outside. I don't know him personally, but from what I've seen, it does feel like that is someone that's just probably not very good person, or maybe has their struggles. Tom Sandoval, another big one to put out there. Tom Sandoval kind of just sucks. And anytime you see him on reality TV nowadays, whether it be Traitors, you know, that I forget the show's name where they're doing like the military stuff. It's just, he's just kind of the dodo at it now, right? Now he's just kind of the person who's just getting the dodo at it no matter what you do, because people just hate him on the outside. I mean, the guy just single-handedly ruined his career in one fell swoop. Even though, yes, he's gotten opportunities, he's always going to be looked at in a negative light no matter what he does. Sorry, I kind of skipped over this one. Courtney Yates was screaming break Stephanie LaGrossa's arms during challenges. Yeah, not a good look. Not a good look. Heat of the moment. But Courtney Yates, yes, I understand where you guys are coming from. We're like definitely villain. But to me, it wasn't even like Courtney was necessarily like a fun villain to watch. She just was kind of like villainess, but I feel like that's just her personality. Juan, his Big Brother edit was real good, really good. He was evil, and it developed into a lovable villain, especially in the final three. Endurance, amazing. Yeah, no, I agree. I think Evil Dick, when it came to being Evil Dick, he definitely leaned into that, but he was like the lovable one, like with his relationship with Danielle. his relationship with others in the house. Like, he could have a conversation with people. He wasn't just evil all the time. And I think, imagine if like Evil Dick was on Survivor, but not Big Brother. Like, the edit he would have got would have been like just leading into all the evilness, right? Like, they wouldn't even show us an ounce of the good part of him, which we got to see because there were live feeds. So it's interesting what would have happened with his edit had he been on a different show. Cass is too cunning, very cutthroat, very selfish, probably a secret psychopath. I mean, that's the thing. It's like very cutthroat, but I think the biggest thing for her character type when it came to being a villain was what you said there, her selfishness, right? And the fact that she just only wanted to do it Cass's way and wouldn't hear anyone out. That's what made her a true villain. Kate the Great One, what's going on, my friend? Welcome back in. I think Coach is my favorite Survivor villain, probably Wes from The Challenge. Those are two great examples, and those are two I have on my notes. Coach is like the villain, but like he's not even like a true villain in my opinion, right? Like, obviously, Coach is one of those villains that, and you would put him in the villain category, but he's one of those villains that absolutely is more of a, this guy is so wild and wacky and out there that, and the stuff he does where he like in his season where he got to the final 3, where he's like very much preaching like, oh, loyalty, and then backstabs people, but then tries to go up to him and give him a hug goodbye and be like, listen, we love you and all this stuff. Like, that's not gonna work, right? But it's just funny to see his character arc through the seasons, and I'm excited to see Coach on 50. I really am. Like, he's one of those villains that it's more so like a Dodo thing, where it's like a Dodo edit meets somewhat villainous person that's not trying to be villainous, right? Because he doesn't want to be looked at like that. We've had a lot of very sweet moments with Coach where he feels like he's on the outs and people just don't understand him or understand his personality, and it's been like that for a while. So there's like a lovable nature to him, but then he always gets in his own way. But do you not root for that? Do you not root for the person that is that villain? Because at the end of the day, that's not someone that's just a shit person on the outside. That's someone that clearly has struggles, clearly doesn't understand sometimes where they stand in an alliance on a TV show, but really leans into that, dragon warrior character. So I am excited to see him on 50. I really am. Wes from The Challenge. Wes fully leans into that character. Wes knows what he's doing. Wes has always known he wants to be the villain. Similar to Johnny Bananas. I think, honestly, that they play two extremely similar games. Different, but they're absolutely the same character for the challenge, right? And you can't convince me otherwise. Where Johnny Bananas and Wes, are they not the exact same character, just two different sides of that same character? Johnny's probably more loud and boisterous and in your face, while Wes is more sit back, does it, talk shit to you to your face, but then also does a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And when they work together, it's like gold, right? It's TV gold, it's gameplay gold. I think that Wes and Johnny Bananas, the fact it took them so long to finally play together is wild to me. Let me see here. Give me 1 second, guys. I'm pulling something up. Sorry, Johnny Fairplay just sent me something, so I was trying to figure out what it was. Let's talk about Johnny Fairplay for a second. So Fairplay did his whole dead grandma stick, right? And that was something that, what's up, Sissy Bananas? Good to have you in here. Johnny Bananas' whole dead grandma was like revolutionary at the time, right? No one else was doing that. No one else was, playing into that. I'm going to 100% lean into the villain role. Like at the time, yes, you had Richard Hatch who was like a villain. But before Johnny Bananas, yes, you had it on other shows. I mean, not Johnny Bananas, Johnny Fairplay. You had it on other shows, but no one used like a big lie to further their game in the way that Fairplay did. And it worked. And the thing was, people love to hate that. So that's someone that, yes, although he can get in his own way sometimes, and sometimes he's very loud and boisterous, especially online or on your reality TV stints that he goes on with, like House of Villains, The Floor, what have you. He definitely leans into that character type because he's already made that impression to the audience that this is the person I'm going to be. This is the character I'm going to be, which it's fun to see, even if you're rooting for his downfall, which a lot of you are. A lot of people are rooting for his downfall. That is someone that you can at least root for, but you would like to see them back so you can root against them, is what I'm trying to say. B. Nickel, what's going on, my friend? Dr. Will was the epitome of embracing the villain, the role so much that he became the first true anti-hero of reality TV. Definitely one of the goats. 1,000% agree. Because Dr. Will, at the end of the day, would go up to you and tell you, hey, I don't like you. I don't like any of you. I'm not going to win any competitions, and you guys are still going to keep me in this house. You're good. You're good. You're going to keep me in this house. And no matter what you do and say, I'm going to continue to play this game. I'm going to continue to win, and you guys should get rid of me, but you're not going to. And that's like the epitome of embracing the villain role, like you said, B. Nickel. It's very true. And I think like Richard Hatch was probably a big viewing point for Dr. Will in the fact that he probably saw a little bit of Richard Hatch and it's like, this villain character can win, right? Like two of our original big winners from way back in the day from those two shows were villains. Does that not tell you something that we need the villain archetype there? This is where I want to get into the actual kind of shitty human villains. Dan Spiller was removed, kicked out from Survivor Islands of the Idols because of repeated inappropriate touching and harassment allegations. Exactly. So Dan is more of a villain, but because of not being good television, not being a good reality show villain, he's a villain because he's just a shit person in real life. Like, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you where you have to constantly touch people and inappropriately and put these women in uncomfortable situations? Like, we saw what happened obviously on the show, but then they even described that he was doing it with production people as well. And that's why he was also removed. Like, why did it take repeat times for that to happen when there was already the allegations out there against him? So at the end of the day, yeah, that's a great example of just someone who's just shitty. Just shitty, and I don't need to see them back ever on my TV screen. There is a big difference between reality character villain and just reality TV person that is a shit person. Wendy from Survivor Edge of Extinction, her releasing chickens constantly, LOL. I don't know that's much of a villain, but that edit always makes me giggle. I feel like Wendy was just leaning into trying to get the Sia money. I really do. And maybe that is Wendy's actual character, but it was kind of villainous. But at the same time, I feel like for her, it was more so she was just trying to lean into trying to get the Sia money at the time. And it didn't pay off. It lost you the game in a respect, and you didn't win the money. Like, it's two whammies. Survivor 49, unnamed male and female contestants removed simultaneously before filming began. That's just people being stupid. That's not even villain. That's just, honestly, now I kind of want to see those people on like a different show because I want to see, they clearly did not give two shits about listening to production or what production had to say. So much so that they were literally removed because they couldn't not talk to each other. Like, what are we doing here? So they're not even villains. They're just kind of stupid, but I kind of want to see them on reality TV now to see if they actually are villains. Yeah, B. Nickel, Dr. Will tossing around the big jar of peanut butter and rubbing into everyone's face. Yeah, like he did so many things. DM Rocks, what's going on? Hey, can't wait to see Tyson on House of Villains. Now, Tyson's actually an interesting one, right? So Tyson, some view as a villain, and I think it's like he's not even a villain in my eyes. He's someone I root for when I have him on my TV screen, no matter what show he's on, because he's just so entertaining. The guy is just like, he's got a real sense of like comedy, right? Like he knows, he's very clever, he's very quick, and a lot of his stuff is very dry. So because it's like a dry humor that's also kind of doesn't hesitate to cross the line at times, that it comes off of like as like a villain, but I wouldn't even categorize him as a villain. I think he's someone I root for, someone I like, but someone that's like will lean into just being like a no holds bar type of thing. So yeah, I think that for me, Tyson's not really a true villain, but he is such a good reality TV character. Even though he was on the Villain's Tribe, I think how can you not have him on the Villain's Tribe? Because he does have villainous behavior, right? That's where I lie. Dr. Will on All Stars just openly using the women as a showman and laughing about it is hilarious to me. It would never fly today. No, it wouldn't fly today. It wouldn't fly today, but at the time, like, it was definitely villainous behavior, but people were like feeding off of it, right? I kind of have a soft spot for Tom after watching him on The Traitors, not to mention Ariana profited tremendously from the scandal. She's doing just fine. It was the best thing. And how are you doing again, my friend? Good to see you as well. Let's talk about the Ariana of it all for a second, because that, trauma or like, situation that happened because Tom Sandoval cheated on her on national television and it like broke her heart. You're completely right here, where she profited more than anyone's ever profited from a breakup ever. Like, there's been millions of people that have been cheated on, right, in their lifetime. Has anyone on planet Earth profited more than Ariana when it comes to getting cheated on? Like, can we get to the point now where we're like, okay, we've seen enough Ariana, because she is on everything. She was on Dancing with the Stars. Now she's the host of Love Island. Like, she absolutely, and I'm not saying it was right that it happened to her. Obviously it sucks and it broke her heart and everyone felt terrible for her. But like, we get it. Like, she profited off of it. It's like similar to how the Kelsey brothers had profited off of the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelsey being with Taylor Swift. Like, I don't need to see the Kelsey brothers on every single thing. I get why they're doing it, because Taylor Swift is the biggest person in the world. But at the same time, I don't need to see the Kelsey brothers 24/7, every commercial and every TV show, what have you. And that's kind of like the Ariana situation when it comes to Tom Sandoval. And Tom, I mean, I can see where you're saying that you have a soft spot for him after watching Traitors. He's just going to get the doof edit every single time now. Like, it's not going to change. Sheila, what's going on? Sheila says Taylor Hale wasn't a top BB winner, but her win was so satisfying because of all the hateful people in her pre-jury. Very true. Like, at the end of the day, her pre-jury cast was abysmal, right? And they were just absolutely ruthless. Like, those are other examples of just shit people, right? And they proved they were shit people even outside of the house. That they leaned into, they were right and they weren't. And we saw it live on our television screen. That's another big part of the villain edit, where we find out people just suck or they're manipulative or what have you, because we get the live feeds. Other shows, we don't get that. We don't get the live feeds of it all. So when we get the live feeds on Big Brother, you really get to understand, hey, these people just suck. Jackson Mickey, he just sucks. Pretty much half the cast from Big Brother 15. They just suck. They're shit people. They're not true villains. You can even say, in a way, Andy from Big Brother 15, the winner, he kind of sucks, but he was also a fun character because he played the game really well. More so, we found out that he kind of sucks through social media, but after the fact. But I honestly, even if Andy came back, I'd be happy to see Andy back, because one, Andy's a hell of a game player, one of the best winners of all time for Big Brother. But then two, like, he's very controversial, but not in necessarily like an awful way, like the rest of the people on his cast. So I digress. Thank you for that comment, Sheila. Villain or not, Elizabeth Hasselbeck always fighting with the women on The View. And that's the thing. Like, that's where you're kind of getting into the politics of it all. And I feel like that I don't really like to talk about, because obviously The View is very, 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 very political in what they stand for. And obviously Elizabeth Hasselbeck was on one side and the rest of the women on The View were on the completely other. But I don't even put Elizabeth Hasselbeck in like a villain category for my reality television shows. Would have been interesting to see her on 50 had that actually happened. Because obviously, when she was on Survivor, she was like America's sweetheart, and then since then has become such a like voice for right-wing conservative views that it's like obviously that's gonna make you villainous no matter which side you're on. But I would have loved to see her all these years later play on 50. I wish Jeff had the same energy for Hatch harassing everyone constantly and full-blown assaulting Sue in a challenge. Rupert is a hero despite how he treated Sue during that incident. And that's another thing too, is like Rupert has always gotten the hero edit. No matter what, he's gotten the hero edit. And there are aspects of Rupert, if you really look into it, are kind of villainous, right? But you love to love Rupert because he's this big burly man wearing a tie-dye shirt, talking about what he does for, kids and stuff, which is very admirable. But at the same time, there's a lot of aspects of Rupert that maybe aren't so kosher. And I think that Hatch really, because he was that villain, and yes, Hatch definitely gets in his own way sometimes, he's always going to have that villain arc on his head. So no matter what he does, he's always going to have the villain or be the villain. Dreadful Ruby, thank you again for your comment. Soft spot for Sandoval is diabolical. It really is. I mean, I get why someone would say that, though. Like, I get why someone has a soft spot for him in the fact that, like, he's dogged by everyone now. Then he's tried to, like, reshape his image, but he gets in his own way. So I can't really, like, I see why people would have a soft spot for that, why they would feel bad for that. But at the same time, you can't, right? You can't, because at the end of the day, he is a villain. Your villain is a skinny margarita and chocolate espresso martini. Yes, it is. Arturita, thank you so much for joining. Oh, I hate when people order a skinny margarita at my bar. I hate it. That and espresso martini. Like, I make a damn good espresso martini, so I get why people like it. But it's a bitch having to go back there and get the espresso every time, especially when you're busy. Tyson is so damn likable. He's hilarious on his podcast. Far from a villain when you compare to other villains on House of Villains. And that's what I was saying. That's 100%. I agree with that because he's funny. He's entertaining. Anytime he's on your screen, you're captivated. You're watching it. You're involved in it. And that's just him being really, one, a really good speaker. Two, very, very quick. Like, the guy could do stand-up comedy if he wanted to. He really could. And then three, the fact is, at the end of the day, you root for him because of those qualities, because of those characteristics. But I see why he gets a little bit of a villainous tagline is because it isn't everyone's cup of tea, right? It isn't everyone's interest to see someone be so slapstick or very like witty and almost like to an extent where it's putting down others. I like that kind of comedy. I think that kind of comedy is kind of funny because at the end of the day, why can't we laugh at shit, right? We should be able to laugh at things. Like, I won't get on a tangent about like, comedy movies nowadays, but they're definitely not what they used to be, right? And I think obviously cancel culture and a lot of things like that have ruined the fact that like we don't have movies like we did in the early 2000s, comedic movies that we had back in the day. And I think it's unfortunate. And I think that we need more of that because at the end of the day, if you can't laugh at life, if you can't laugh at the stereotypes and things that maybe make you feel a little uncomfortable, but it's true and you can laugh at it. Like, I feel like I laugh more now at stuff I see working in customer service because it's so like, I guarantee you 90% of the stuff I see at my bar or at my workplace or what have you would get you canceled nowadays if you tried to create that. Like, it would, because that's just real life. That's just real people being real people. And I laugh more in that than I do a lot of the comedy movies we get nowadays. So I went a little bit of a tangent there, but you get what I'm saying. Omarosa is a good villain. I don't know if I necessarily like her, but that's even more of a reason why she makes a good villain. She certainly knows her role and plays into it. There's people that just know how to play the villain archetype, right? And there's people that don't. They try to be a villain, and they're just not good at it. They just look stupid or look like shitty people. And then there's people that really lean into the drama of it all, the character of it all. Like a lot of these reality TV villains, honestly, would make for amazing actors or actresses if they wanted to go into movies or some kind of role, because they know how to play a character. They know how to bring out that character. Omarosa 100% is one of them. Whether you agree with Omarosa or like Omarosa, or dislike Omarosa, you can't say that she doesn't lean into that role. One major aspect is when she walks around like this, like I'm the queen of the house. Like watch her on House of Villains and watch her walk into a room and she just immediately takes all of the air out of that room and onto her. Right? Because like everyone's like, oh, it's Omarosa. And then she's like, yes, my dear. Yes, my darling. Like, she just plays such a good villain, even though that's probably not completely her. I mean, sure, there's an aspect of her that's like that for sure, but she really leans into it. And I find it, even though she's not necessarily someone I root for, because she's not necessarily my favorite type of villain, I can at least appreciate it for what she is and what she's doing. Dreadful Ruby says, shall we list the endless shows Tom has been on since the scandals? The cheater is doing just fine. Don't get me wrong. He's absolutely doing fine too, because he leaned into it as well, right? He leaned into, okay, let me take this skin, or at least his PR people did. They took it and said, we're going to run with this. Now we're going to get you on all these shows because you are such a figurehead. The problem is he has not done anything to recoup his image in front of people, right? And I think he's used those platforms to try to recoup his image, but has not done so at all. And if anything, it's just made it worse and made it more of a dodo at it. Ariana's side, if it is having a soft spot for someone who would fuck his partner's friend in her home while her grandmother was dying, for starters, Ariana doing well doesn't change who Tom is. 1,000%. And I want to make this very clear for anyone that's sick of this. What happened to her obviously sucks. It sucks. And it was shitty. And it was everything about it was just kind of trash, right? And Tom's a trash person, but we know that. We've leaned into that. But Ariana has definitely profited off of it, right? So you can't say that she hasn't profited from the events that happened to her. Millions of people, like I said, millions of people have been cheated on, and good for her. I'm not saying it's a problem. I'm not saying that she can't do those things, that she can't lean into and take full advantage of the situation. Absolutely. I would do the same thing if I were in her situation. I would run to the ground. But at the end of the day, all I was trying to say, the point I was trying to make was, has anyone who's ever been cheated on profited more than Ariana has? And that's all I was trying to say about it. Do I need to see more of it? Probably not. She's made her millions. She's good, but good on her for doing it. At the end of the day, that's not my place to say. I'm just saying she's profited a lot from it. Rupert will always just be a guy who thinks it's cool to rub your genitals on someone without consent. It's wild, right? It's wild. Like, he has such villainous tendencies that the fact that the show, even after all those things, continue to lean into the fact that he's a hero is wild to me. I still don't see it. Contrary to belief, not every reality TV show fan is left-leaning Democrat. Just saying. Totally agree. And that's the thing is, I think the problem, and it goes into political subjects on social media in general, that I feel like, how do I word this? Even though, like what you're saying is contrary to belief, not every reality TV show fan is left leaning. It's because who is the most vocal, right? Who's the most vocal on reality TV, and who does it tend to lean towards? What type of people does it kind of lean in towards? And that's also a thing with, where does Hollywood kind of lean? Where do these big production companies lean towards? That's another factor in that as well. Fresh Show said Survivor 47 Operation Italy members Andy, Genevieve, and Sam were villains. I don't think so. I think Operation Italy, just a smart gameplay, right? And when I think about Sam, I don't think of Sam as a villain. I think of Sam as kind of like a hero. I think that Genevieve, she's one who I feel like had more of a villainous edit, but I don't even think of her as a full villain. I'm excited to see her on 50. If there was anyone from the new era that I was actually like, okay, that makes sense, Genevieve was one of them. And they definitely gave her more of a villainous edit compared to Sam. And Andy was kind of like a dodo edit while also being strategic and villainous. So 2 out of the 3, I would say, had a little bit of villainous tendencies, but I wouldn't even consider them true villains. Like, I hate to even put Genevieve in that category because that's almost putting the woman in the category, not the men, just because she's a woman, right? Like, and I'm not trying to do that, but the show definitely leaned towards more of a villain edit for Genevieve and Andy compared to Sam. All right, Marcus Thompson says, I'm not going to absolve Richard in any way for the Sue incident, exactly, but watch that scene back again and you see Sue goading him. Sue could have went in the other balance beam, but decided to pursue Rich. At the end of the day, guys, like that whole situation with Sue and Rich shouldn't have happened because production in that kind of, especially in that kind of competition, should not have allowed Richard Hatch to be naked in that situation, right? Like, at the end of the day, this was so early on. This is pre anything we've seen, like with social media and all this stuff, Me Too movement, what have you. They should have had the foresight to not let that happen because he should not have been in a situation where he could have been rubbing anyone like that. And I absolutely don't blame Sue for feeling the way she did about it. As far as like goading him and all that, I don't know if I necessarily agree. I think that she was in an uncomfortable situation and it sucks. I think that I lean more towards production should have been smarter in that situation. Evil Dick was one of the best villains of old school BB, in my opinion. He's a complete asshole in real life, though. I mean, we have seen a lot of that aspects when it comes to him in real life, right? And in real life, he does seem like, okay, maybe we got way more of the hero moments for Evil Dick than he probably deserved, but it made for such a good TV character. Like, even though in real life, some of his opinions and some of the things he said might suck or you might disagree with, I would love to see him back on my TV screen. I still would. None of his takes that he's said, on his podcast or social media or what have you, do I say is too much for me to not see him back. I don't know if we'll ever get him back, but it's someone I would absolutely be willing to see. I would like to see him on House of Villains. 1000%. Hot take, Tiffany New York Pollard is Omarosa on steroids. I could see why you'd make that argument, right? But Tiffany New York Pollard, to me, feels like she isn't as much of the villain the villain character as Omarosa. Omarosa is this like bigger than life thing. And I feel like New York, that's just New York. Like, love her or hate her, that's just her. And that's how she's always going to be. But New York's a great villain as well. Sandra on Survivor. Sandra definitely is like the anyone but me. And you kind of love her or hate her for it. But she also will get in your face. Like, that's the spiciness of her that I love, is that if you try to go talk shit to Sandra, she's going to talk shit right back. And I respect her for it. Because, yes, you can consider her a villain. For sure, she was on the Villains Tribe. She's definitely has no problem getting into an argument with people. I think Sandra that we see nowadays is less villainous, in my opinion, than what we saw in the early days. But she's still definitely one of the best villains of all time as far as a character. Because it's really just her, and it's her being real, and you either love it or hate it. But none of it is evil, right? It's just, I'm going to go and get in your face if you're going to get in my face. It's kind of like stand up for yourself. And how can you make this into good TV while also fighting for your side? Puck from Real World, the original villain, he terrorized the house. Puck is just a villain to be a villain. Like, that's just like, he is just kind of, like we said, a shit person, right? And Puck has always just been that kind of character. Ariana did not want to get married or have kids. I'm not justifying the cheating, but Tom honestly should have ended that relationship a long time ago. It was doomed for failure, in my opinion. I think when you get to all of that, like at the end of the day, guys, the Ariana and Tom of it all, it clearly they were just going two different directions. What he did was absolutely awful and shouldn't have happened. Sorry, 1 second. All right, sorry. My wife sent me something. I had to read it real quick. Fairplay sent me something, and I still don't have time to read it because we're live on stream and it's too much to read. But I'm very interested to see what this text has to say. Let me get into some more of your guys' comments, and I apologize for taking a second there to read that. The issues with villains in reality TV is how do we define them? Is it players who are unlikable or players who play up their villainous antics? And that's a great way to start the conversation, right? Is I feel like the majority of people lean towards the people that play up their villainous antics. Unlikable people, you can just like to root against them, like a Tom Sandoval, but you don't necessarily always want to see them on your television screen, right? No one's asking to have Jax or Tom Sandoval or, I want to put them as like, I'm trying to think of like people that suck, but not like Big Ed from 90 Day Fiance. You put them in a category of they just are unlikable people. They just kind of suck. There's shit people, and then there's people that suck, right? And then there's villains who are playing a character. The character villains are always the ones I want to see back 1,000 times over. They're the people that I lean towards. I think that comes more from the social strategy games, like the gamers, as they would say on Traders, that there's more of that archetype of character villain and gameplay villain, where when you have these reality TV shows that are like real life reality TV, like Vanderpump Rules, like Housewives, that those people are more, okay, you're just either a shit person or you're a sucky person, right? You're not a character. You're playing yourself while also just being a shitty person. So I think there's a big difference there too. There are shitty people that come from the reality games, the gamers of it all, and we've gotten into a few of those. I think Mickey from Big Brother 27 is the only villain from Big Brother 27. She attempted to play like a dictator, and she was scathing with her opinions of people. I would also put Jimmy in that category too. Jimmy absolutely tried to play the villain character, and I agree with you on Mickey. I absolutely do. I think Mickey was absolutely the villain on her season, and she had a lot of people on her side. But then she didn't. The thing was too, she wasn't leaning into being a villain. She was just a villain because of what she said and did. Where Jimmy was trying to be a villain, and was he good at it? Not necessarily. He did all the antics that he thought would make good TV and make a good villain edit. But at the end of the day, I think Jimmy went very early, so we didn't get to see the full aspects of that villain archetype. You could also put Vinny as the villain of the season, but Vinny wasn't the villain because of being villainous. He was just a villain because he constantly was lying, not harassing, but like lying and telling people one thing and doing another, crying about it, whining about it, like 1,000%. Jimmy, Vinny, and Mickey. Maybe your name's got to end in E for you to be a villain. Oh crap! My name's Bobby. Shit, am I gonna be a villain? I'm not a Survivor fan, but one of the only reasons seasons I watched was the one with Russell Hantz when he lost to Sandra. I thought he definitely deserved to win and played a great villain game. So let's get into the Russell Hantz of it all, right? Russell Hantz, 1,000% is that person that you saw on your television screen. Like that's just him. But it was such a good villain arc, right? It was such a good villain edit. And a lot of his game Absolutely agree with you. He deserved to win. He should have won Heroes versus Villains. But at the end of the day, that character that he was playing wasn't even necessarily a character that he isn't in the real world. And we've seen that post Survivor, post his career of Survivor, that he's definitely that villain archetype. He is definitely that villain character. Another one I want to bring up is Rachel Riley. Rachel Riley, who I love and adore and think is great. She definitely at times will lean into being the villain as well. We saw her on Big Brother 12 where she's the villain because, one, she was already on the outs in the house, and she says and does things where no matter what, she'll pick a fight with people. And we saw that on Big Brother 27 where she'll pick a fight with people in the house to either stick up for her friends or stick up for Brendan. And maybe times she probably shouldn't say anything. She should probably stay out of it, but she can't not. And that's the thing, is like, that was just her. That's her being her. And at the same time, a character that you can love or hate. And it's similar to like Russell Hantz, right? Russell Hantz is always going to play villainous, but also is kind of villainous outside of his own character. Parvati, I mean, she used her sexuality to get what she wants. With that being said, I would have sold my house for her alliance. I mean, Parvati's one of the best players to ever play, right? She's near my Mount Rushmore. We've talked about that before in the past. But she absolutely leans into, I'm going to use my charm to be villainous and get people on my side. How it works every single time when people know her game and know that's what she does is wild to me. Like, the one time we saw that it really didn't work was Winners at War. But that's because those people are like top tier game players, right? But when we saw her on AU versus the World, it went right back to that strategy and it worked. When we saw her on Dondi, she went right back to that strategy and it worked. It's wild to me that it continues. Like, who has a charm like Parvati? No one does. It's definitely villainous, and it's definitely a villain edit. Can we argue that the best characters on reality TV are villains? I honestly think they are. I think the best reality TV characters are 1,000% villains. Also, Kylan, Big Brother 23, is another player who I would consider a villain. He wouldn't consider himself one, but the way he played with certain people and his exit make it clear that he is a villain. 1,000% Kylan was a villain. But Kylan was a villain in the fact of what he did and said was actually villainous behavior. But like you said, he would never consider himself a villain. So he wasn't trying to play a character. He was just being a villain while also trying to be a lovable character. And I don't think those things are very endearing to me. If you're going to be a villain, if you're going to be that character type, lean into it. Go all in. But he was definitely not trying to be that. Guys, we got 18 people in here. Please give a like on the video if you like what you're watching. Hit that sub button. Give us a follow. If you can, please hit the bell notification so you're notified when I go live. You can also follow me on my social media handles at GoodsbyBobby on social media, twitch.tv/BobbyGoodsby. Jason says, Jimmy was more of a wounded dog due to him having a growth arc at the end of his HOH and being backstabbed by his allies. I think Jimmy leaned into the whole theatrics of it all way too early in the season. I really do. And I think he tried to be the villain. He tried to start the drama, especially with Keanu, and he would say and do things. But then when we see him on the live feeds, that villain wasn't a true villain, right? Like, at the end of the day, yes, he tried to be a villain, and he was probably one of the villains of the season, but he wasn't a fun villain to root for, in my opinion, and he wasn't someone that fully leaned into that character type. Hello, Jimmy tried too hard to play a character and is now a clout demon. 1,000%. 1,000%. I see Jimmy more on my social media, like, For You page than anyone else because of the amount of clout he's trying to get. Jason says, I also think the best villains wouldn't necessarily accept the role since it's just who they are as a person. See, and I kind of disagree with that take. I understand and I appreciate the comment. I understand where you're coming from. I like more the people that lean into being the villain. And I think that really attaches itself to what makes the best reality TV villain. Someone who knows they're a villain, leans into it, plays the role, plays it well, and it's also an aspect of their character. Right? So there's always going to be those people, the Johnny Fairplay, the Russell Hantz, the Richard Hatch, the Evil Dick, the Dr. Will. All of these guys, you can say, leaned into one, a trait they probably already have, but also a character they're trying to portray to make good TV. Thank you for the comment, though. B. Nichols says, Vinny is the worst kind of villain, the guy who wants to be loved, but stabs everyone in the back. If he leaned into his portrayals and actually would have been a fan. That's the problem, right? He's not, he wasn't trying to be a villain. He was trying to be a likable, lovable person to these people, and then constantly knew in the back of his head he was going to betray them. It didn't make for a fun TV. It didn't make for a fun character. Do I appreciate that Vinny was on that season? Absolutely. But was he a character, or was he just himself and had villainous tendencies? That's where I lean. And I think I would agree with you. I would have been more of a fan, if he leaned into it. If he was telling us in confessionals, I'm doing all these villainous acts, or I'm trying to play this character up, or what have you. If we would have got more of that, I think I would have been more of a fan of him. Also, I think the whole cheat Mance was also a big reason why people couldn't get on board with him, but it made him absolutely a villain. Boston Rob is a very interesting villain because he is so effective in his confessionals, talking to us, though we are friends of his, as though as we are friends of his, is like no longer becomes a villain is wild. He is such a fun villain, though, because he's, how do I explain this? He knows he's being villainous without playing a character. He's one of the few types that I can absolutely say without a doubt made for such great TV, but was never fully regarded as a villain. Yes, he had the moments with Lex. He had the moments where he did villainous behavior, and he leaned into the fact that he was backstabbing people. He would always tell you, hey, we're together. But then at the end of the day, he would go and do something else because whatever was beneficial to his gameplay. The problem is with Boston Rob, you have to respect it, right? You have to respect his moves, respect the way he played the game, because he did it so well so many times. I mean, his worst game by far was Marquesas. And even in that, it was enough to get him a shot on All-Stars and then on Heroes vs. Villains and then what have you. Like, where he eventually got so many opportunities, he was able to win the game. His most villainous is the season he won the whole show, because he just got all these people together, completely brainwashed them, and then took them out one by one. But he did so in a way that they still respected it and realized we had to get this guy the win because he brought two goats to the end. Like, yes, it's villainous behavior. Yes, he could be considered a villain. But when you really think about Boston Rob and the image that we've gotten on social media and through other shows he's been on, is he really a villain? Yes, he has villainous behavior, but you kind of root for him, right? And if you don't root for him, maybe there's just something about him that you haven't liked over the years, and that's fine. But to me, and I think I speak for a lot of people, is the show that he goes on, no matter what show it is always better because he is there. And I always enjoy him being there and being a character on my television screen. I feel like he can absolutely play the role where he's not a villain. But I feel like in the back of his head, he's always going to do something villainous no matter what, because he is Boston Rob. But I don't consider him a villain. It's weird. It's a weird one because I know I should, but I just don't. And let me know if you disagree with me. And I know that might be a hot take, but I don't necessarily view him as a villain. And I think it's because he's rootable. Because him on Survivor All-Stars was total villainous, 1,000%. And I completely agree with that. His villainous behavior is 1,000% makes him a villain. We saw that's why he didn't win. But guess what? He got to the end with his eventual wife, and it didn't matter. He still pretty much won because of that too. Her win was his win. So it's wild to me. I would also include Nicole Franzel, a villain, purely based on how unlikable she is. I can't fathom rooting for Nicole in any scenario ever. A lot of that is, one, we've talked about before, her voice. Two, she's very whiny, and it's like, if you don't agree with Nicole, or if you don't do something in the best interest of Nicole, then you are such a terrible person. And that's where Nicole's antics come from. And I think that's, if you really think about the psychological of it all, because yes, she's a good player. She's gotten very far multiple times. She's won, 2 iterations of Big Brother. And yet we look at her as a villain because of the fact of, it's very much so Nicole's way or the highway. And if people don't lean into that, then she doesn't like you. It's very much so a villain at it. While some people might disagree. Hans also shitting on his nephew Brandon at the reunion cemented him as a villain, 1,000%. Hans is just always going to be that guy, but he knows he's that guy, and I love that for him. Fresh Show says, in BB12, producers wanted to open a Pandora's box to curse the house. They let Rachel Riley come back in to harass the players. And was that not one of the moments of the season in Big Brother 12? Is her coming back in and getting in the fight with Reagan because they unleashed a curse onto the house? Like, that is villain edit 1,000% over. And I absolutely love it, because we talk about that scene so many times. So many reenactments of that scene have been made. When you think of Big Brother 12, what's the first thing that comes in your head? Might be Floater's Grab a Life Vest. Might be Hayden's win. Might be, the alliance that Hayden, Enzo, and all of them have. Might be Brittany Haynes. Like, that might be 100% what you think of when you think about Big Brother 12. There's a lot of great examples. But in my opinion, the thing I think about every time someone brings up Big Brother 12, I immediately think of that scene of Rachel coming back in due to Pandora's box and getting into it with the house, and especially the conversation with Reagan. Like, that is Big Brother 12 in a nutshell. What days do you go live? I go live Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, 12 noon Pacific to 2 p.m. Pacific. Every single Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, right here on Reality After Show, at After Show on YouTube, and twitch.tv/Bobby Goodsby. Give us a like, give us a follow. Helps us out tremendously. Leave a comment, whatever it may be. I appreciate you asking, Sheila. Thank you so much for your support. Trishia Lynn, thank you so much for joining the chat. Hope you're doing well. Agree about Jimmy. He was more of a brat than a villain. Exactly. And I agree with you. I think that he tried to do these acts, right? Where calling out Keanu, where Keanu completely hosed him when it happened, where he's wearing these, black gloves to portray like a villain type of thing, or theatrics, like he was more of a theatrics trying to be a villain than actually being a villain. And at the end of the day, I appreciate the effort, but I could care less. Like, if you're going to be a villain, lean into the villain role. And we didn't get that from Jimmy at all. And let me know if you disagree with me. Thank you so much, Trisha. Trisha, apologize for that. Trisha Lynn, thank you so much. Juan says, it's like wrestling. Nobody will pay to see only the hero, but will pay to see hero overcome the villain. 1,000%. 1,000%. Like, that's such a great analogy to make, is you go to root against the villain or to see a hero beat a villain more than you go to see a hero be a hero. And it's true. It's just our nature, right? Our nature has always been good versus evil. It's always been, you want to see the underdog over the top of these, what's the wording I'm trying to look for? You want to see the underdog always prevail over the Goliath, right? You want to see good beat bad. But sometimes the bad can be more refreshing or more entertaining than the good, and you want to see the bad prevail because the good sucks. So those two antics, like, you just can't go and be in the middle, right? You need to go and be 100% who you're going to be. If it's going to be good, be good. And then if it's going to be bad, be bad. But like, I'll go back to like season 48 of Survivor, where we saw so many people trying to be the good at it, trying to be the lovable at it, that it was too much because there was no bad to go against. There was no villain to go against. There was no side that was like, oh, that's villainous behavior. The only thing you got was the people that they were portraying as 100% our heroes on our screen was pretty much everybody. And even then, those heroes kind of sucked. And they were people that were at times preaching how loyal and good they are while doing things that weren't completely loyal and good. And it's like, when there's no archetype for there to be any contention of a good versus evil, I feel like those don't make good seasons. And let me know what you think on that, because I think that's a great way of saying it, that you have to have the good versus evil. You have to have, and I say evil lightly, obviously I'm saying like that's what our minds immediately go to. Who are the good hero people? Who are the villain people? And seeing them go against each other. And you might root for one side, you might root for the other. But that makes for the best drama. That makes for the best seasons, is when you have the good versus evil, the heroes versus villains. And I think that Survivor is a little bit of lost the plot on that, where we've even heard Jeff say we no longer are going to be looking to cast villain archetypes. And I think that's such a bad way of doing it. The most memorable people we've ever had on reality television are the villains. 1,000% over. You talk more about the villains, and we see more of the villains on social media, doing commercials on other shows, than we see the heroes. 1,000%. I completely say that villains make a TV show. I think when someone leans into being a villain, it starts feeling like role playing. People are nuanced, and when they focus on one quality too much, they become a caricature. You're not wrong. But the thing is, there's a way to do it where it's endearing and you're able to root against it at the same time, right? There's people out there that know how to play the character while also playing the game, while also making it good TV. It's hard to do. Not a lot of people can do it. But there's people that try, and then you just think, man, these people just suck, right? There's people that just are shit people. And then there's people that try to be the hero or villain character, and they just suck at it. And it's not entertaining. It's not fun. It's not good. And that's like the worst type. Obviously, the shit people are the worst, but it's like the worst type when you're trying to be something that you're not, and you are just a caricature, right? You're trying to be that thing. I wouldn't even say caricature, because that's not even the right wordage. It's more so you're trying to be something that you're not, and you're not good at even being that character. Kind of like a Jimmy. Like a Jimmy is trying to be that character. He's trying to be good TV, but he's just not very good at it. And he doesn't do enough to stand out as someone will always remember. Like a year from now, who's going to be talking about Jimmy besides the clout chasing? But these people that really lean into being villainous behavior, maybe it's their natural character highlighted or blown up or overproportioned, those are the ones that are most entertaining. And I would say the caricature types are still those types of people. I also wouldn't consider Rachel a villain. She is just outspoken and very direct player. I think that Rachel would say that she's a villain. I 1,000%. I think she leaned into it, but I also agree with you that she is outspoken and direct, and that's just what makes her her. And I respect her for it. I wish I had tendencies like that, but I think she would even admit that the villain archetype is something that has always been a tag to her. So might as well lean into it, and it's opened up a lot of opportunities for her. Does she completely say I'm a villain? No, but I would say she would probably understand the argument that she leans more villainous, and that's the reason why she's had a lot of the opportunities she had. And I respect her for it. Completely agree with both your takes also. And like I said, guys, I think that she absolutely would consider the villainous tendencies that she's had as making that archetype that has supported her career forward. And I think it's a good thing. It's only benefited her. Remember Big Brother 16, Devin? He was a supervillain. See, the thing was, he was like a villain, but like he was just more dodo at it, right? Like he was a villain in the sense of the word, but he was more so, he was so much of a dodo that it like that like he just did things that got in his own way. And like him arguing with Zach Rance and all of that, like it's just he was, in my opinion, whenever I think of Devin from Big Brother 16, I loved it because I thought it was entertaining and it was fun to watch, but he was definitely more of a dodo than an actual villain, in my opinion. Juan says, Big Brother 12 and somewhat 13, Rachel was the villain. Her confronting Kathy because Kathy beat her in the competition and celebrated. Come on, that's villain traits there. Or even like her saying, floaters grab a life vest, and getting into it with Hayden and Kristen and calling them out. Like 1000% Rachel would say that was villainous behavior, but it was also her being outspoken and loud. And the thing is, you can be both those things. You absolutely can. Taylor Hill is a hero who I think on a return would be such a fun villain. I think she has it in her. I agree with you. I think that she absolutely has it in her to be a villain. I just think that she also doesn't want to ruin her image. I think she's also just shown too much of being a likable person that I don't think she can ever fully lean into the villain, because even if she tried, I think people would still see her as the hero no matter what she does. So I think that she's a hero given the circumstances that happened on her season and the fact that she won and overcame those difficult situations, that I don't think there's any way she can be looked at as a villain arc, even if she tried. For BB, there are villains on feeds and on the edit. For example, Morgan for casuals is a villain because of Lauren and the cheat mans, but for feeders, she is much more nuanced. And I agree. I think the show tried to put a little bit of a villain arc, especially with the whole Zingbot of it all, where they tried to more so put that on Morgan than they did on Vince, which I think was wrong. It was definitely Vince being in the cheat mans more than Morgan, and he should have been the one called out more than her. But I do think she has villainous tendencies, while I think that she was playing just a good game all around, that the show definitely portrayed more of a villain than I think she actually was. Taylor Hill is a manufacturer hero. Yeah, I said it. Now people will call me the villain of the chat, Bobby. No, I think that I can see where you're coming from with that. I think that manufactured, in my opinion, is probably not the right word, because I think she's a hero in the fact of what she had to overcome with like some shitty people in the house with her. But I can see what your argument is 100%. This season, they painted Rachel, Ashley, Morgan, Mickey as villains, while painting Keanu, Kyle, Adrian as heroes. When feedsters know it's the opposite for BB, it's so subjective on who you ask. Oh, 1,000%. 1,000%. They try to lean into those things, and they try to pick and choose who they want to give a hero and villain edit to. 1,000%. That's why I think the feeds are so important for that kind of game, especially so you can see the true character and have a real open opinion on it. But think about it. There's probably been so many other shows that we don't get live feeds that's the case too. There's probably been people that have been absolute villains that got such a hero arc because either they won or they want to portray them in a good light, so that because they think that they're good characters in that light, that probably would be villains outside of this. 1,000%. I think I've always just viewed Rachel as more of an anti-hero because I find her super likable. Even I think that's actually a very good point. Jason, I completely agree. I think that the anti-hero is probably the best way of putting Rachel. She has villainous tendencies. You can consider her a villain. I absolutely agree with that. But I do think that she's more of an anti-hero. I think I'm didn't even think about that before. That's a great way of putting it. More of an anti-hero for sure. B. Nichols says, Russell from Big Brother 11 was a fun villain I rooted for. I especially loved when he bullied Ronnie for an entire week. Haha. Like, Russell was just kind of an oaf, right? like yes, he actually had like decent game sense, and the fact is though, he just couldn't control the fact that he was gonna lose. Like no matter what he did, like when he knew he was on the outs and he knew he was on the losing side, he was just such a fucking poor sport about it. But when he bullied Ronnie, I'm like, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily need to see this big, strong dude like really putting it on this obviously nerdy archetype kind of character. Like, I don't need to see that. Like, you can just be a normal dude. Did Ronnie get in his own way and is he completely off the hook for some of the stuff he did? No. But at the end of the day, like, he is a human being. Netta went from Canada's fave in Big Brother Canada 2 to one of the most villainous hated house guests in BB Can 5, but this was mainly because of her edit in BB Can 5 against Ica. Yes, and that might be one of the biggest like character drops in fandom of all time. Of all time. Like, I agree with you. I think Ica you can put in the villain category. I think Ica would lean into that too. Obviously, with her tearing up the letters and stuff in BB Can 2, like 1000%, she knows she's that villainous edit. She leans into that, but she's a great character for that because one, that's just her, and then two, she's also leaning into it. Netta was 100% Canada's hero, Canada's sweetheart. And then when she went on to BB Can 5, what a collapse. What an epic collapse, too. It sucks because I'm kind of vague on my memories of what happened, but I remember at the time being like, oh, this is going to end badly for her. And I remember, like, obviously it was stuff with Ica, but I forget exactly what was the cause because it's been so long since I've watched BB Can 5. What was the sole cause of her collapse? But I remember at the time, like, this is epic. This is an epic collapse. B. Nickel Russell following Ronnie was hilarious. I miss old BB. The thing was, like, it was hilarious, but it was kind of cruel at the same time. Like, bro, just I don't need to see this big guy just completely towering over this poor dude, this poor scrawny, like, clearly nerdy dude. Would you consider Ica a villain? I said it right there. 1000% I would consider Ica a villain. And I think Ica knows she's a villain for sure. For sure. I appreciate all your guys' comments. You guys are killing it today in the comments. So thank you so much. If you guys are new, drop in your favorite villain chat right now. Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race. I don't care who made you yell at your TV. Who do you see as a great character villain? Who do you see as a real life villain that's just a shitty person? We've gotten into that too. We're going to unpack it all right now on stream. What's the difference between a great TV villain and someone who's just straight up awful? Let us know what you guys think in the lines, in the chat. Survivor, in my opinion, invented the TV villain, right? So like the TV villain was created on Survivor. Richard Hatch was 1000% that OG villain character. And it was because he played the game. He formed alliances. He backstabbed people. He used people as building blocks to formulate his game and strategic prowess. It's so impressive to watch. And without Richard Hatch, we probably don't have Survivor 50. We probably don't have Big Brother characters that we see nowadays on our TV screens. And all of that was produced by one man who is probably one of the ultimate villains of all time. The fact that he went on Heroes versus Villains so much later than he probably should, or not Heroes versus Villains, excuse me, House of Villains so much later than he should have, is kind of makes me in awe. So let me get down to some more of my notes that I had on here. So when it comes to the actual goats of villains, right? The Mount Rushmore of villains. Who do you guys have? Who do you guys think is on the Mount Rushmore of villains? I think Russell Hantz, he was definitely up there. Richard Hatch, definitely up there. Dr. Will, 1000% up there. But is it just because they were such early days villains? Or is it because they were actually some of the best villains of all time? I think that you have to put them in the Mount Rushmore. But let me know if you disagree. Who is your favorite unintentional Survivor villain? Who is someone that tried to be a villain or wasn't trying to be a villain and absolutely became a villain because of that? It's wild. I kind of feel like there's a lot of characters you can put in that category. Another argument we want to make, and we talked about it a little bit, and we kind of talked about it when we were going over, like, when I think Juan brought up the whole wrestling of it all. Would you rather watch a season full of heroes or a season full of villains? I think that's the best argument to make, right? 1,000% over. I would want to watch a season that's all villains, because villains make the best TV. Villains really lean into those character types. While heroes, we saw basically a season full of just heroes in Survivor 48. Well, not all were complete heroes. There was a lot of anti-heroes out there too. There was way too many heroes, and it was very boring television. Where if you have more of these villainous people or a season of all villains, it 1,000% creates the drama, creates a good TV. Compare Big Brother's brand of villain manipulation, alliance betrayal, and diary room arrogance. So I just put these in my notes of what I wanted to kind of go over. So I sit on here, brand of villain manipulation, alliance betrayal, and diary room arrogance. There's some people that have some epic diary room slams, and they know that they're being a devious person, a villainous person, by what they put in their diary room dialogue. And I respect that. But the thing is, a lot of the time with the diary room dialogue, it's very contrived by what production wants to put out there. It's definitely contrived by what production is trying to throw in our faces as this is what you need to talk about. And I think we've lost the plot over the years. We don't get as many of the Brittany Haynes, look at these idiots talking about these people in a negative light. Nowadays, it's very much so, hey, here's the prompt. This is what we want you to say. Or very leading questions to the house guests to paint the picture that the show wants to portray. And I feel like we've lost the plot on that. I feel like they need to give them more of the ability to speak freely and highlight those actual character archetypes than what we actually get. So let me get back to your guys' comments. The one player from Big Brother Canada I feel doesn't get enough respect is Godfrey from Big Brother 3. I don't think he's a villain, but I remember loving his floater style gameplay. Godfrey was such a wild card. Like, he was such a loud, boisterous wild card that you either loved him or hated him. But he wasn't playing a character, right? He wasn't good. He wasn't bad. He was more of like we said earlier with the whole Rachel of it all, more of an anti-hero. And I 1,000% think that had Godfrey won the game, I think you consider him one of the better winners to ever play, because everything in his nature was like, he very much so played a very similar role to Keanu, right? Where a lot of time he got in his own way, but he was so likable at the same time that you kind of rooted for him. I'm not saying it's a one-for-one comparison, but there are similarities there for sure. Roddy from Big Brother 3 is another villain who wouldn't consider himself one. Danny R literally used to call him the devil. I mean, yeah, 1,000%. But that's another thing, is Roddy was not one of my favorite characters because he didn't lean into it. He didn't ever portray himself in that light. And although he did stuff that was villainous, there's something about Roddy that I just never got on board with. Like, there was people that loved Roddy or were absolutely hated him. I was just very indifferent about Roddy when I watched him. And here's the other thing too, is I watched after the fact. I didn't watch that season live, but from what I saw from social media and stuff about him, he's just kind of whatever to me. He's always been kind of whatever. Mount Rushmore for villains is probably Russell Hantz, Evil Dick, Dr. Will. The fourth is questionable. You have to put Richard Hatch up there. You have to. There's no way you can't put Richard Hatch up on the Mount Rushmore of villains. I would say you could also argue Parvati You could also argue, who else? I mean, some people might even argue Dan to an extent from Big Brother. Some people might argue that. Another villain from a season is you could put Dan, the mailman from Heroes, Hustlers, or Heroes. Oh my God, why am I blanking on that? Heroes, Hustlers, Healers. Thank you. I had to think about that for a second. Where he just kind of sucked too, right? He was just sucked. Like he was like, I loved when the show totally called him out by like having the receipts on everything he said. Like 1,000%, like that guy was like such a villain in like the worst way possible. He just kind of sucked. I would watch a season of Heroes, but depending on Heroes, you'll get a chance of one or more start turning into hero or into villain. That'll be interesting. I see, and I disagree because I think that like, although it might be compelling to see all these like heroes back, and yes, obviously someone's probably going to turn heel at some point. Oh, sorry, Worlds Apart. It wasn't Heroes, Heroes, Healers, Hustlers. It was Worlds Apart. Thank you so much. I apologize for that. You are absolutely right. I got my seasons mixed up. I think that a season full of just heroes would, yes, you'll see someone turn heel at some point. It has to happen. But is that necessarily the best TV when you see a hero fall from grace? It can be, but in what way? Do they fall from grace as a hero because they did stuff to manipulate the game and advance their game in a way so that they could win? Or is it in a way that's just like, oh, now this person sucks and now we don't see him in the hero light anymore? I think for me, I'd rather see a season of all villains and see a villain become a hero, or a villain turn heel and lean into some hero characteristics and repair their image. Because you always root for like the underdog story, right? You root for the person that, like, if you had an all villain season, it would be someone that turned their image around for the better because they did something to be the underdog and prove themselves otherwise. That makes sense. I think there's also a difference between villains and unlikable. For instance, Natalie from Big Brother 11 is one of the most annoying, unlikable house guests, but not necessarily a villain, in my opinion. It's a great point. It's a great point. Because there are people that are just not necessarily that villain image. They are more so have villain tendencies, or they are a villain when they get out of the house because of things they say and do that you're like, oh, you are just a shitty person. Then they were a villain on our television screen. Hot take, I would put Morgan in that unlikable category and not villain role from this season. 1,000%. And I feel like there's a lot of people you could put in that category. A lot of people you could put in the unlikable category more than you could put in the actual villain role. I save the villain role for the people that are actually the villain characters, the villain archetype. Because there's more unlikable or people that you root against, and then there's people that you are happy to root against, which are the villain archetype, right? So I digress. Let me go back to some of my notes. If you guys can, give us a like, give us a follow. Another great person to bring up as the villain who leans into the villain role, maybe not necessarily intentionally, but I think over the years has even more so leaned into that role, Abby Maria. Abby Maria is one of the greatest chaotic queens we've ever had on our television screen. The fact that she hasn't been asked for Traitors or been asked back on Survivor is wild to me. Like, yes, she got back for second chances, but is there someone that more than that deserves to be on multiple iterations? Or like Abby Maria on the challenge. Like Abby Maria was built to be on the challenge, built to be on Traitors. Like the fact that we haven't seen more of her is crazy to me. One of the greatest villain archetypes there has ever been. And it's because of the whole chaoticness of her game, the spiciness of her nature. But she's not even that terrible of a player. Like, I feel like House of Villains, the fact that they haven't called her, wild to me. I mean, Abby Maria is absolutely making a case for, up there on the Mount Rushmore list, but it's because she just is, that's her natural character highlighted. Let me get back to some more of my notes. Here's some questions I want to ask you guys. Is being hated by America a sign you played the game too well? Like, can we argue that if you're hated by America, did you play a very good game, or are you just hated because people love to root against you? People hated you just because you're a shit person? Like, what is it? Another question I have is, would Dan's funeral still work today? Would social media tear him apart for being a villain in that archetype or in that role? Because a lot of us look at him in such a positive light as one of the best players, while he did have, villainous tendencies. Would it work today? Would it play well to social media? I argue, I don't know. I don't know how it would play in today's culture. I think a lot of people would respect the move, but then you'd have a lot more vocal people probably tearing him apart. So I digress. Those are, in my opinion, are interesting conversations to have. I think that there's just a lot to the villain archetype. There's a lot to the villain character. There's a lot to just the shitty people of it all. And at the end of the day, I've said it a million times, and I'll say it a million times more. Villains are the best part of reality television. They are the things we love to root against. They are sometimes the people we like to root for. But I would much rather have a villain on my screen. I think the shows need to lean into the villain roles more. Maybe it's a problem of casting people that can play the villain character. Do we have, like, you had Rome on 47, who was probably the closest villain we've had in the new era to like a true villain. And even then it's subjective, right? But that was probably the closest we've had on Survivor over the last decade. And I think that we need to lean into more of the villain roles, more of the villain characters. I think we need more of those villain antics on our television screen. And I think Survivor should definitely go back to casting the villainous character types on our television screen. So I think we've had a lot of villain talk today. I thought it was an interesting topic to bring up. I'm probably going to end this short because my wife's got to go to work. Kiddo had early day at school the whole week. I'll get to Juan's comment right here. Back then, they'll hate you for your gameplay, and in today's social media, they'll hate you for political beliefs. 1,000%. 1,000%. It's true. With that being said, guys, I got to get out of here. I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm going to say it again, like I say at the end of every stream. Follow me on social media, X/Twitter @GoodsbyBobby, Instagram @GoodsbyBobby, Twitch.tv/BobbyGoodsby, @AfterShow on YouTube. Hit the sub, hit the like, hit the bell notification so you're notified when I go live. I always post when I'm about to go live every single day on my social media, so go check that out. With you guys, this is not possible. I appreciate all of your guys' comments in here on the chat, as always. Now, special little news assignment. I'm not going to be able to podcast tomorrow. My kiddo has parent-teacher conferences, so we got to be doing that. So I'm going to be taking tomorrow off. I will be back next Monday, 12 noon Pacific to 2 p.m. Pacific. I appreciate each and every one of you. I hope to see you guys here. Leave a comment below letting me know what you thought about this topic. What do you think about what makes a true villain? What you thought about my opinions on things, if you agree or you disagree, what have you. And I just appreciate each and every one of you. So I will be back next week for the full week. This week was just kind of weird with my kiddo having early days in school. Made it a little more difficult. So I appreciate each and every one of you here. And I will see you live next Monday, 12 noon Pacific to 2 p.m. Pacific, right here at Reality After Show and twitch.tv/Bobby Goodsby. With that being said, peace out, guys. I appreciate you, and I'll see you on Monday. Bye, guys.